Okay, so I'm going to run through my consultation process, which is basically what I do when I sit down with someone who's shown an interest in personal training, small group training, weightlifting coaching. So what I've done is I've used myself as an example and I've filled the form in. And it's just to give people an idea of what I do, the questions that I ask, the information that I collect, and how useful this is in terms of providing the right services, the right programming for that person, for that client. So just using myself as an example, just because at the minute I'm in the process of writing my own training program, so it's important to reassess my own goals and to run through the process myself, treat myself as a client as well. So as you can see, the first page there, it's just a consultation form, client's name, date. So if you flip over, there's quite a lot of information here. So I'm just going to break it down and go through each of these pieces of information. Some bits I'm going to whip through quite quickly, other bits I'll look in a bit more detail. So first of all, as you can see there, I've just got general background information which will remain confidential. So obviously I've not filled out the majority of this. So client's name, date of birth, email address, contact, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if that client wants to be contacted that way, mobile number, date, also an opt-in, opt-out as well. So in terms of GDPR, if that client wants to be contacted by email, they can choose to opt in or out of that. And then just looking at the first thing really is just to look at what that person's goals are. So please describe in detail what you'd like to achieve regarding your health and fitness. So for me, I like to go through this in terms of priority. You know, what's the number one goal first of all? If you could achieve one thing, what would that be? So for me, at my stage now, it's to rehab my lower back. I've had some lower back pain which has prevented me from pushing hard on the Olympic lifts. So my number one goal really is to rehab that. So right side lower back pain. At the moment for me, it's not really that painful, but I can feel that it's painful with certain exercises, so I need to look at what the problems are. I've been to see Will, and he's identified areas that I need to work on, so improve mobility, improve posture, muscular balance. It's been identified that I'm quite dominant on the right side, so when I've looked at my technique, when I dip on the jerk, I'm quite right side dominant, and that's pushing the bar across to the right, and it's putting a lot of the load onto the right side, and it's kind of taking its toll, and that's one of the reasons I think why I'm experiencing this lower back pain. So just try and remedy that. And then secondly, it kind of leads into this improved weightlifting performance. So improved technique on the snatch, which is always something I need to keep working on, and to keep improving strength as well, specific to the Olympic lifts. And then my third goal is to improve my health overall, which I think is a very important thing for the majority of people. So to feel better, increased energy, improved muscle and bone density, improved resilience to injury, which is really important. Also, I think it's important not to overlook looking better, feeling better, increased confidence as well. Definitely to look leaner. I need to maintain my body weight as well, around 80, 81 kilos. Because that's the weight category that I would be in when I return from injury. So I need to maintain my body weight or keep an eye on it in terms of not dropping too far below or going too much above. So those are my main goals. It's important to be as specific as possible with these goals. A lot of people want to lose weight. So it's being as specific as you can be with that. How much weight do you want to lose, or what body measurements do you want to be? What dress size do you want to be? And then the next stage is to look at, this could be seen as quite a negative thing to look at, but if you don't make these changes and stay the way you are now, or you regress in your health and fitness, how would this impact upon your life? What are the consequences? So this can be quite a scary thing, but I think it's important to consider what's the alternative to training. So what would actually happen if you were to be inactive and not look after your health and fitness? What would the consequences be? So for me personally, that would be a prolonged recovery period or relapse of the injury, which would put me back even further. I would be weaker and even more prone to injury, lacking energy. Also, I would have a loss of focus as well, bad habits, even depression, maybe not depression, but even, not feeling good, poor mood, depression for some people as well. Because I know exercise is something that's really important in terms of reducing the symptoms of depression and trying to improve people's mood as well. Hyperkinetic diseases as well. These are diseases associated with low activity as well. So things like heart disease, diabetes. It's all pretty serious stuff really, but it's important to consider that these are actually things that can occur if you're inactive and lead an unhealthy lifestyle. And then also decrease in confidence as a result of these things as well. And in the long term, when I get older, I don't want to look back and regret, I could have done this, I could have achieved this. I'm very interested really in the human body in terms of how much it can achieve, in terms of the limits of the human body. So it's not to have regrets in the future as well. I think that's really important. But then to flip that on its head and look at the positives, the next question, why do you want to achieve these goals and how will your life be different once you've succeeded? I think this is a vital thing to ask clients as well, and also to be aware of yourself. So for me, it's to be pain-free during training. That's the most important reason, to enjoy my training, be pain-free. And I have been going through the process of identifying exercises that I'm okay with and I can push hard with, which is the majority of exercises actually. So, I'm actually quite grateful that I can train pretty hard with the majority of exercises at the minute. But the main things that I need to be doing for weightlifting training, full cleans especially, and back squats. Those are the two that I'm struggling with at the moment, so I want to be able to do those pain-free in the future. Secondly, long-term health. So just going back to what we've just talked about. This is it, isn't it? It's having that big picture. Long-term health, longevity, improved bone density, muscle mass. All these things are going to help as you get older, because these are things that, very quickly now, even though I'm in my 30s, only in my 30s, these are things that drop off. Bone density, muscle mass, these are things that are in decline already, even from the age of 30. So it's important to have this knowledge, and this is something that can help motivate you to come in and train. Thirdly, I want to compete again in weightlifting. So I'm approaching my mid-30s, so I feel like I am a little bit limited in terms of time that I can compete at the high level, and keep pushing forwards and making progress at as a senior lifter before I go into the Masters. So I do want to compete again on the national level. Disappointed to miss out at the English Championships this year, while going into the beginning of 2019. So certainly for the beginning of 2020, I want to be at the English Championships. So that's a number one goal for me, to be able to compete on that stage again. Number 4, experience and knowledge of injury rehab to help other people as well. So although it's quite a frustrating experience for me to be injured at the minute, I'm trying to use it to my advantage, always trying to see the positives of every experience. So although it's frustrating, I'm not able to do what I want to do. I think it's important because a lot of people come to me, they've got niggles, they've got injuries, we're having to work around certain issues. So for me to experience this, I've experienced it in the past with things like tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, and I know what exercises are bad and which exercises can be good and what needs to be done to help remedy these things. So I'm just trying to learn myself, what are the best things to do to rehab from these injuries. Because I think in the long term, I'll be able to help other people more effectively as well if I go through the process myself. Number 5, improve confidence as well. So, once I've achieved these goals, once I've rehabbed the injury, my confidence levels are going to come back. Recently, I felt like I've lacked a bit of a purpose because I've not been able to compete in weightlifting. So I've not had that goal. And I've been training, I've been lifting, but I've not really had that purpose. I've not had that as much of a drive as I have been in the past. So number 6 as well. So there's quite a lot of these things, and I think it's important to identify as many as possible as well. So feeling and looking healthier, and coming back to aging as well. So that's something that definitely, again, I think when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, this is something that's really important to consider. You know, you're not going to be as strong if you don't train as you get older. So you do get weaker as you get older, unless you do something about it. So I think it's quite serious to consider this. Number 7, to inspire others to train and lift as well. So I want to be setting a good example to other people. And I think this is really important as well. I need to show people that I practice what I preach, and I also need to look the part as well for the job. You know, as much as we like to think that people don't judge others on first appearances, I think it's inevitable. It's something that happens. So it's important to look the part, and also it's important to practice what you preach. So a few more to go through. Actually, I've identified quite a lot. Number 8, enjoy eating more. So when I'm not training, my appetite goes down, my enjoyment of food goes down. When I'm training, when I'm lifting heavy weights and I'm training at high intensity, and I'm active, I feel like I've got a purpose to eating, to fuel the body for performance. I enjoy my food a lot more as well, and the calories as well are used to help with repair of muscles, and to replenish glycogen in the muscles as well, rather than actually just going to body fat. Depending on how much you eat, of course. So it's getting that balance right. But I do feel like I enjoy eating and I enjoy food a lot more when I'm training at high intensity. Number 9, to feel more in control and to experience success as well. So I think when you've got a structured exercise program, and you're checking it off and you're coming in and you can see that progress on paper over weeks, it gives you that element of control. It gives you something to look forward to, and also it's what is success as well. I think success is the process. You know, I've come to learn it's not about the end product. As much as I enjoy hitting a personal best, it's something that's harder to come by the longer you're in the lifting game. So day to day, you know, trying to get better every day. I think experiencing success, working hard, putting 100% in at the gym. I think for me, that's success, trying to get better every day. And then number 10 as well, something we've mentioned in the goal section, to have no regrets as well. So I think if you're putting 100% in, if you're injury free, if you're taking care of everything, taking care of all the lifestyle factors, which we'll come to in a second, we're going to have no regrets. And then the next section as well, I always like to ask this question in relation to what you want to achieve. Where would you say you are now on a scale of 1 to 10? So 1 would be right at the very beginning, you know, never lifted a weight before, never trained before, or not trained since you've been at school for many years. A 10 out of 10 would be the ultimate, you know, level of achievement. So for me, I would say I'm at about a 7. So because I've been lifting for quite a few years now, I feel quite experienced. I'm not a beginner, but at the same time, I've suffered a few injury setbacks. I'm not as strong as I have been in the past, so I feel like I'm a bit off the pace. Whereas in the past, I think I've been at about an 8 or a 9. 10's where I've always been striving to be. I'm just a little bit off the pace at the minute, so about 7 out of 10. The next one as well, I always like to ask potential clients, have you ever had a trainer before, a personal trainer, a coach, or have you ever tried to achieve these goals? Just to gauge that experience level. And for me, I've had quite a few different people coach me as well. I think it's important for personal trainers, for strength coaches, to have a bit of humility in it. And you know, no matter how good you are, how experienced you are, you could be the best coach in your field, but I think there's always something to learn from another coach, maybe in a slightly different area too. So for me, I've had a lot of different people coach me. The next one is what has worked well and why. So we've had to expand this section. So for me, I found a good training environment works well. Having compelling goals, a structured training program, prioritising training, having competitions booked in the diary as well, that gives you a sense of urgency as well. But definitely coming back to a good training environment, having the equipment, having people around as well that you like to train with. It's something that I've found quite hard actually myself. I'm quite an individual person, and I like to train on my own, to have that freedom to train on my own. But at the same time, I quite enjoy training with other people as well when it comes to weightlifting training, and having that atmosphere of others lifting around you. It makes all the difference. You look forward to training a lot more. Everyone's encouraging each other. So that's something I need to have a look at. And then, what do I struggle with and why? So for me, it's snatch technique. It's always been something I've struggled with. I think starting off on my own, trying to teach myself for 2 years, it's instilled some bad habits, and it's still very much to this day. You can still see these little bad habits, little elements of the bad habits in there, and it's very difficult to rectify. Also confidence as well with the snatch. Injuries, which we've mentioned, getting older, and then also my posture could be better, and I can strengthen my back as well. And then looking at exercise history, I think this is something that's quite important to look at. Some people come to me and they might be in the 50s, but they've never done any exercise since they're in school. I've had that happen before, so I think it's quite important to understand this, because you don't want to throw them in at the deep end and start doing advanced exercises with these people. Whereas other people, they may already train 4 or 5 times in the gym. They might be quite advanced, but they might want to learn specifics from you. So, everyone's different, so it's important to identify what their background is. For me, I've always competed in sports from a young age, from about 8 years old, swimming, athletics, football. And then I was in the gym on and off, not really training seriously, doing bits and pieces from 16 to 23. But then from 24 to 33, I've been lifting pretty seriously, pretty regularly. How active is your occupation? I would score that for me as a 7 out of 10. So 1 would be sat down all day doing nothing. 10 would be running around all day, the most active job you can imagine. So for me, I'd say it's about a 7. Because I'm on my feet, I'm lifting weights, I'm loading bars, I'm moving equipment around. It's not the most, if I'm not training as well, it's not the most physically taxing job, but it is quite, you're moving weights around, you're loading bars up, and you're on your feet, so relatively active. Okay, so yeah, coaching the lifts as well, so sometimes I'm seated, so yeah, that's probably why it's not an 8, 9 or a 10. This is an interesting one as well, so please rate the following on a scale of 1 to 10. These are all lifestyle factors that can often be overlooked as well when you sit down with a client. So these are things that can affect, your preparation and recovery from training. So scale of 1 to 10, 1 poor, 10 excellent. How would you score nutrition, firstly? So for me personally, I would score this as around a 7 out of 10. Overall, I'd say it's pretty good. I eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, lots of protein. How could it be better? So I always try and ask, rather than trying to score 10 out of 10 on everything, trying to be perfect, how can you improve each of these by 1 or 2 scores, 1 or 2 numbers? For me, I would say prioritising my protein. So I do eat a lot of protein, but I could prioritise it a lot more and keep track of it more as well. Also variety, that's something that I would look to improve upon. So in terms of my body weight, I'm where I want to be with my body weight. I could be a bit leaner, so I think prioritising protein for me as well. That's probably the priority for me. Sleep, this is the one thing that I would score the lowest on. So I would say about a 6 out of 10. Because for me, my schedule is very different. Sometimes I can start work at 6 a.m, other times I'm not starting till 11 a.m, and I'm working quite often till 10 p.m. at night. So it is a bit of an erratic schedule that I've got. And I'm a night owl as well, so if I've got an early morning, I find that really hard. So that's something I could work on. How could I bring that from a 6 to a 7? So to go to bed an hour earlier, and also manage my schedule a little bit better as well. To be disciplined with my schedule, so that I'm getting, that extra hour sleeping. That could be something to look at. The next one, resilience to stress. I think this is something I'm pretty good at. I'm quite relaxed, so 9 out of 10. I think everyone feels a little bit of stress. Some people struggle with this, and I think this is something that's often, again, overlooked with a lot of people. So, and that's going to affect your training and recovery as well. So if you're stressed out from work, life, and you bring that into the gym, that's something that's going to impact upon your performance and recovery as well. Because training's a stress, so if you're adding additional stress to your life, you're going to find it very difficult. So for me, that's something that it's probably one of my strongest areas. I'm quite good with managing stress. Daily physical activity, I'll score that an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. Training about 4 to 5 times a week. I'm on my feet, quite active in my job. Lifestyle overall, 7, I would say. I just need to be more consistent. Some days I might not be active at all, on my days off, for example. But most days I am active. And then overall health, I would score, touch wood, about 9 out of 10 at the minute. Pretty much everything's okay, apart from these little niggles and injuries. So pretty good overall. It's identifying, you can see at a glance, where the client's going to be, where the strengths and weaknesses are and what they need to focus on. So the daily physical activity thing coming back to that, is something that can be improved by having this training program as well. If I'm doing something every day, even if it's adding in that extra mobility, then that's something that will improve that daily physical activity. So this is the majority of it. So there's just a few bits and pieces over here to go through. So looking at solutions, again, how can you improve each of these areas? This is something we've just touched on. So in particular for me, it's discipline with sleep, focus on long-term health, commit to and execute change as well. So the nutrition and lifestyle. Having this and logging my progress as well, this is something that can help with this. So I've done my body composition and body measurements, and I'm going to be logging my training as well. So, just tracking everything. I'm going to be accountable to myself. How important is it for me to make these changes right now? I'd probably say about an 8 out of 10. So it's important, but it's not like the ultimate thing in my life right now that I need to do. So it's important to have that in perspective. An 8 out of 10 is pretty important. Do I believe I can make these changes right now? Yes, I do. What would it take to increase these numbers? So it would just take consistency and discipline. How many times per week can I commit to training? For me, 5 times a week is optimal. I have trained 6 times per week, but I think 5 is a bit easier to manage, especially if you're busy as well. Minimum 4, so that's for me, that's the minimum acceptable number of times per week to train. And then I'm 9 out of 10, I'm confident that I can achieve this. My expectations of myself, so I would ask the client, what are your expectations and what's the key support you'd like from me? I see this as probably the most important question, or one of the most important questions. Just to kind of summarise everything, what their main goals are and what they want to get from the sessions, what their expectations are. So for me, it's to track my progress, to have this training log, and also to monitor technique as well. So this is something that I will do myself using video technology. So if I put some different exercises in there, I did it today, I did some single leg Romanian deadlifts, and not done those for quite a while, and I felt pretty wobbly with them. So having that video technology and just coaching myself in this respect, I think this is something that, I will benefit from. And then just looking at this I'll quickly go through, firstly, just skipping through the goal setting, but health questionnaire is just to check off each of these things here. So checked off no to each of those, just to make sure. Again, you could have someone with a serious issue that you might have to work around, so it's important to rule everything out. For me, it's just the lower back pain, it's muscular. Currently aggravated by leg press, back squat, heavy deadlifts off the floor, cleans. All other exercises are okay, yes. I forgot to mention earlier actually, leg press and anything off the floor, those are the things that I really struggle with. Everything else has been okay. And then, just finishing off with the goal setting. So there's a couple of different ways you can look at this. You can look at it from the point of view of looking at smarter goals, so specific, measurable, action plan, realistic, timed, enjoyable, and reassess. Or you can look at it from the point of view of having process goals, so completely different focuses. I've gone through both of these just to kind of illustrate the differences in approach. So if you look at the smarter goal setting, I've given you the examples here. So for me, the specific goal for me is to reduce the lower back pain and improve weightlifting performance. So these things can be logged. Lower back pain is just am I able to do exercises that I weren't able to do before? The weightlifting performance can be logged in terms of weights lifted. Measurable, you can rate your pain, and also can you do the exercises or can't you? It's logging this down. Am I able to do the weightlifting exercises? The action plan will be the program which we'll run through soon. Is it realistic? We've just kind of looked at the flexibility, the frequency and the flexibility of the program. So it'll be 4 to 5 times per week, which even when I'm pretty busy with clients, I'll always fit in 4 sessions per week. So it's something that's realistic for me to do in terms of a program. Timed, it's going to be a long 20-week program, so it'll be periodized. That's the macro cycle. So it will be timed over 20 weeks and then broken down from there into 5-week mesocycles. So every 5 weeks I'll have a slightly different focus. We'll put some deload weeks in there. We'll reassess constantly as well. So that's the bottom one there, reassess. It's not set in stone, a training program, so if we have to adapt it, if we have to reassess after every 5 weeks or so, then we can have a look at it. Enjoyable, for me, it's probably initially not going to be enjoyable because I'm going to put exercises in there and things in there that I don't like doing, because these are the things that I'm weak at, things that I'll tend to avoid. So probably not going to be enjoyable at the start, but I've experienced in the past when I've practiced exercises and been consistent with them, I end up enjoying those exercises. So it's turning weaknesses into strengths. Coming on to process goals next then. So this is completely different approach really. So it's looking at day to day, what can we do to work towards our goals without even thinking about what your goals are, or focusing on the achievement of those goals, but what are the actual processes that will help you to achieve the goals. So the first one is putting in 100% effort to each session. So that will be a goal for each training session. Have you put in 100% effort to each of those sessions? It'll be 90-minute sessions, ideally 4 times per week as a minimum. Another example of a process goal would be to log training in detail. The volume, so sets, reps, exercises, how I'm feeling on that day, etc. So to have a detailed training log and to log that down and to check it off. So with that program, as well as we've just mentioned, complete the program and adapt if needed. So if something's not working out, if you feel like if it's not working, if it's painful, if you don't feel like you're getting benefit from it, can you adapt it? So we're going to adapt exercises and approaches if needs be. Another example as well is to book training in the diary as an important appointment. So for me, if I've got clients in the diary, I'm not going to cancel clients, unless it's something really, really important, if someone's ill or, if I'm ill, I'm not going to cancel that appointment. So I think it's important to view your own training in that respect as well. So I'm going to book my training sessions in the diary, 4 training sessions per week. I'm going to put that in there as an important appointment, so it's not going to get cancelled. Treat it just the same as though it's me training a client. So they're locked in, so it's a minimum 4 times per week. Daily mobility and rehab, 30 minutes minimum of mobility work and rehab. Enjoy the process as well. So even if it's a tough session, if you feel like you're not progressing, those are the actual sessions that you're progressing the most in, the ones that you find difficult and that you're pushing forwards with. And just to be grateful to be able to train. So that's something recently. Although I've not been able to do the Olympic lifts, I've been grateful to be able to do the other exercises as well that I need to be doing. Something that I've just looked at recently is meditation as well. So I'm going to look to do 5 minutes of meditation per day, which will hopefully help with mindset as well, and relaxation, and to reduce stress levels, just to kind of reset for me as well. And then focus on sleep, as I've mentioned as well. This is something really important that it's been a lot better in the past before, so having a more consistent bedtime as well is something that I need to work on. It can vary quite a bit with my different shift patterns. Being self-employed as well, there's always, you're never really switching off, so that's something I need to focus on. Okay, so that's pretty much everything there. So if I were to sit down with a client as well, it would just to discuss a training plan, which I'll run through in the next video, to go through what packages are, how often they want to train, preferred method of payment. As a PT myself, I don't need to run through that. But yeah, so this is finally the measurements log. So I've recorded here, that's December actually. I've recorded here my 4-month goal: reduce low back pain, compete in weightlifting competition, maintain body weight and reduce body fat slightly. The 4 weekly goal there is reducing body pain, lower back pain. So when I'm logging measurements as well, I like to put specifics in. So I'll put the date in, and I'll put the time and also how many meals I've had as well. So it's consistent. So next time I take my reads, I'm going to do it around the same time, having had 1 meal. So I've taken my measurements here, and we'll come back in 5 weeks. I'll do every time we've completed these 5 weeks, as part of this macro cycle, we can record measurements and see if there's any changes. So that's pretty much it for the consultation procedure. I like to sometimes just go off and just have an informal chat as well, and usually we kind of discover and answer a lot of these questions just by chatting as well. But I think it's important just to have it logged down, and you can always refer back, and you can come back to this every 5 weeks and reassess. So I think this is an important tool to have. It's something that I'm going to keep coming back to myself, hopefully see some good results.